Have you ever heard of that filler that fixes rusts? Because if you have, let me know in the comments down below where you can find some, because the person that filled the wings didn't get the right filler because they certainly didn't fix the rust. As you can see, we've got the wings back from the sandblasters, and I must admit they aren't horrific. There's definitely some panel beating that needs to go on to get these things squared away, and a little bit of rust work to get them absolutely spot on. But for considering how old the wings are, I don't think they're that horrendous. But let's just have a little look and see what we are left with, what our blank canvas is, and how much work we really have got to do to get these things boxed off. Starting then with the driver's side, if you come a little bit closer, you can see we've got a little bit of a rust hole on the top there. Coming further down, you can see some dimples and some dents just on the edge there on that shut line. But coming round to the wing, actually looks pretty decent, not rotten out at all. Again, a little bit misshapen on the inside of these wing edges, but it's down here, move that out of the way, it's down here where there's actually some gremlins and there's rust holes that need repairing. That obviously needs sorting as well. But generally speaking, for something that is this old, it is pretty straight. There's also a little bit of a bracket there, a hole there which has rusted through. But from a distance, there's not a lot you can argue with on that. It is pretty good condition. Always feels really weird and looks really weird, a bare metal panel. Rubbing my hand on it, I'm no expert at this, but rubbing my hand on it, it does feel like there's quite a bit of denting going on the top of that. Here's pretty solid, but I can feel with my fingers, especially here, there's a big dent. Not too bad down here. What about the rest of it? Yeah, it's a bit wavy down there as well. But it's much better than I anticipated. Moving on to the left hand side, the passenger side. As you can see, it's a little bit wavy round the front here. A little bit wavy down the bottom, and there is a little bit of rust under there which needs sorting out. As you can see, it looks a bit like a beach. I think on this one there is generally a bit more denting going on. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but this panel is so wavy, it is not sitting as, it's only rested on there anyway, but it's not sitting that nice against the wing now. I don't know if it's been misshapen because of the pressure of the sandblasting, but the top of this panel is like an absolute beach. But again, coming around, rust in the same spot on the bottom of that wing as what there was on the other. And again, a lot to be said for these wheel arches because they aren't rotten at all and are pretty decent, to be fair. So again, apart from it being a bit like a beach inside there, I don't know if that's going to focus properly, but apart from it being like a beach, it isn't actually that bad rust-wise than I anticipated. Parts for this are going to be near on impossible to get. Now, fixing and making the best of what we have got is probably going to be the likely route we go with this. However, I know a lad called Jake from HR Auto Works. He is an absolute air-cooled VW guru. Beetles, Trekkers, Brasilias, buses, you name it. He is an absolute expert on them. And he does quite often go to Portugal. Now, Portugal is a country where these things, excuse the helicopter, where these things were actually made and produced in, or you could probably get hold of one. So he may be able to get us some new parts for this thing, but if he can't, like I say, we'll have to go with plan A and just fix and make do with what we have got. I've also got myself some wax cups as well, some paint mixing cups, so I can chuck all the fixings in which means we can now make a start on stripping the doors down, getting the interior taken to pieces, and we can store it all nice and methodically organised, so when it comes to put this thing back together in probably about a year's time, we can find all the fixings and hopefully have an idea of what goes where. Famous last words, I know, but hopefully doing that we can save ourselves in the long run. I'm just manifesting. I'm looking at this thing. It's painted white, it's sitting on its chrome wheels. I pull up to a car show or outside the What If Nest Academy. I air out on my airlift suspension, straight to the floor, get out, and this thing will look absolutely awesome. But we aren't there yet. So a big part of this is for my own benefit. So we have the window motor or window mechanism there, with some 8mm bolts coming back round to this. I guess it's part of the window mech. Obviously the window down the bottom, a couple of 8mm there, again probably part of the actual window mech. Coming around to a lever which comes to the door lock. Now we've got the door handle there which goes to the bottom of that piece. We also have obviously the window rubbers. They're fine, not too worried about that. Door lock is in that orientation. It was at this point I realised that the settings weren't quite dialed in on my GoPro, and we lose all the footage of me stripping the actual door apart, so we're going to have to skip to it being done. This is all going to be worthwhile to take note of for when we come to put this thing back together, and I'll probably completely forget how it all came apart. Skipping to the future then, we are now picking up all the little bits and pieces from the door. As you can see, it is completely stripped down and in two pieces. We're locating all the bits and pieces in a box, so when we come to fit this thing back up in the future, all the bits and pieces are together. I cannot stress how important it is that organisation is done right, because it is really going to help us down the road. Now, we'll get this thing tidied up, get in the loft, and then we can move on to the next part.